Hey loves, welcome to a new video over here on the L&M channel. Today we are going to be going over my March journals and the flip through of the ones that I utilized. I do have a little agenda here in my N5, sneak peek on the channel of my N5. Oh, it's so cute! I've already talked about this on Instagram and definitely on Patreon, but yeah, this is my N5. And I do have my little agenda here for the flip through. So we are going to be looking at, actually I could probably just zoom you in, it might be a little easier. So we are going to be looking at my successful journals for the month. That's going to be the Our Studio journal, which is my joy journal, my tan, which I use for daily logging, and the Hobonichi cousin, which is my media journal / commonplace. And then we're going to look at the flops, which are going to include the Hobonichi weeks as my media log and the TN vertical as a sort of like timeline type situation. And then we're also going to look at some pivots that I made in March that have been working, and just some miscellaneous journals as well that are kind of like companion notebooks that I've been using here and there. And that's going to include the TN standard insert that I originally started using at the beginning of the year for daily logging, and also the B6 Slim Midori notebook, which historically I've used for Japanese learning, and I decided to kind of use it for something else in the last couple of weeks. So that's our little agenda for the day, and I will of course leave timestamps for anyone who is interested in skipping along. But if this is something that you're interested in, go ahead and keep on watching. So I think I want to talk about the flops first, just because that's going to be quick and easy to get out of the way. And so first flop, and it's no surprise because I have been struggling with this journal for the past couple of months. I talked a bit about it in the Techo Kaigi, which I released last week. I will go ahead and leave that linked up above for you in case you haven't checked that out. But the Hobonichi weeks is what I started off in as my media journal, and I was trying to see if I could pivot a little bit in March to do a different style, and it just was not successful. It just wasn't successful, and you will see that in the form of unfinished spreads and also just general weirdness in the spreads themselves. Ooh, that might be a little bit too zoomed in. There we go. Let me get this blotting paper out of the way. So you can see here, I kind of tried doing kind of like collection pages on this side, and that didn't work out. I didn't actually go in. This is something that I could potentially go back and do though. So it's not a total loss. I just haven't gone and done that. The log itself stays as normal. I don't have any problem with the log itself. It's always me not really knowing what to do with this side of the page, which is why originally when I was thinking about doing my media log for 2025, I had considered the biweekly slim, but then obviously I changed that up and it was no longer what I was going to be using. But then on this week, I tried another thing because obviously this doesn't work, and I tried doing like the stats of the week. So I went to like how many chapters I read, how many episodes of shows, what arc I'm on in the One Piece series, what books I read, and just some general notes about the week itself. And I think I just activated Siri by saying series. So let me turn that off. And that worked for this week, but again, I didn't continue on with it, and so I didn't try that. At one point, I considered maybe going back to a similar style to how I was media journaling back in 2023, and I really like the look of it, but I didn't end up doing actually anything in it. And this is something similar to something I heard Nikki Kaigi say in one of her most recent videos related to the A6, and it's that she really enjoyed using the A6 historically when it was just like one of her only journals, but now since she has so many different ways of documenting life, it makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out what she wants to do in the A6. And I think that's something similar with me and this week's. When I first did this media journal back in 2023, it was the only journal I was using that year, and so it was the only place that I could log the information I was logging. And I think that's why it was so successful. But now, because I have so many journals that document life, it makes it a little bit more difficult for me, and I haven't quite found how I want to kind of use this space while still loving the Hobonichi weeks. Like, I still love this form factor. I love the size. I, of course, have already formed a special attachment to the cover, so I don't want to let it go. And even though this form of using it was a flop in March, I do want to see if I can figure out a way to use this in April and beyond in a different way. So I'm currently kind of figuring out how to pivot this journal, but for the purposes of March and this flip through video, yeah, it was a flop. At one point I decided that I wanted to do my trackers in here instead because I was kind of going back and forth since I am entering my rings era, as you can see with the M5 edition. I was kind of considering doing tracking in a personal rings, but then I was like, you know what, let me try and see if I can make that work in one of my current journals. And so I tried adding some of my kind of trackers in here, especially because I was already logging the weeks, right? So it makes sense that this could kind of be like a logbook of sorts, but more than just media, and be all inclusive, which is what you see kind of me trying to pivot and do here. I tried moving the weather into this section, which is reminiscent of what I was doing in my Hobonichi health journal back in 2024. But then this was weird. And then this week I didn't even do my media log in here. This week I tried kind of doing the log that I was using in the tan, which I will talk about in a moment when I actually flip through the tan. I tried moving that in here. And this week specifically kind of threw me into a block. I keep comparing it to kind of like when you're trying to read through a book and it just puts you into a reading slump. Yeah, this was causing me to go into a journaling slump, and I wasn't wanting to be in my journals. And so at this point, which is already going into April, but at this point I decided that I was going to just not try to make this work. It wasn't working for me, and so I wasn't going to keep pushing it. I was just going to let this kind of like sit on the side and until I can figure out a way that I can actually use it. And as you can see, even though I'll give you like a little glimpse, we are on this week as I'm recording this, and there's nothing in here. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out what I want to use the weeks for, and hopefully find a way to keep this in my lineup, because I do really love this cover and what I've done with it, and I love the Hobonichi Weeks space. So I just have to figure out what I can do and what place it holds in my lineup in the future. And of course, if I can't find something, I can't figure it out, then at that point I will make a decision. But yeah, I do love this little thing, this little guy, and I want to make it work. So we shall see what I can use it for, and if I come up with something in April once we get to that flip through. So that's the Hobonichi Weeks in terms of the first flop of the month. Next flop is the vertical TN. So with the vertical TN, I was really missing being in a TN in general. I was watching one of my videos from last year, and I really do love the TN form factor, and I really love this olive cover specifically. And so I was missing it, and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to do a timeline. I miss doing them, and why not try doing that in the TN itself? So that's what I tried doing, and as you can see, I got, I think it was like a 17th. Yeah. So also what's really funny about this is that this kind of like keeps going 16th, 17th, but this is February and this is March. So I thought that that was funny, just FYI. I tried doing it, but I wanted to do it for, I think specifically media logging. Yeah, this was kind of trying to replace what I was originally doing in the Hobonichi Weeks in February, which was kind of like a timeline related to media journaling and just media focused. But obviously it didn't work. I didn't finish it. And so this week I tried, was it the continuation? Yeah. This week I tried just doing like a regular life timeline, and I really liked this. This is very inspired by Japanese journaling because it's something that I've been watching a lot of these days. Lots of Japanese journaling. I think most, if not all of my content that I'm consuming right now that relates to journaling is from Japanese creators. And this kind of timeline thing is something that they do often. And I really liked the simplicity of it with just black and white, black pen on paper, and which is really different from what I usually do, right? Like you guys know me for being very decorative in my spreads, but I kind of really loved the simplicity of this type of spread. Of course, I did not end up finishing it, and so this was kind of a flop as well, at least in this particular journal. I will say it's not entirely a flop because it does kind of change the way that I do certain things in the cousin. So this was very informative. I mean, I think, and that's my take, my hot take on, and I don't even know if it's a hot take, but I think that like when it comes to experimental journaling and kind of like journal hopping, to me it's all information. Like it all informs everything that I do. It's all just one practice, and you're using different outlets to kind of make that work, right? And so for me, yeah, this didn't work, and even though it's a flop in this particular journal, it did inform how I'm journaling in one of my other ones, right? And they all kind of inform the other. But all to say that, yeah, this kind of like March was a flop in this particular journal, and that's okay. It is what it is. It did kind of alter and inform other changes that we'll talk about when we get to those journals. But yeah, for the most part, flop in here. I still want to see, again, what I can do with this journal. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I do miss being in the TN format. I really love the TN. And so I'm trying to see what I can do to kind of be in here a little bit more. And that's still also in the works. So there's that. That's the TN. So now let's talk about the actual flip throughs. And at the end of the video, we'll get into the kind of like pivots and miscellaneous journals. But let's go into the good stuff, right? Which is the flip through of our spreads in the journals that have been working. You know what? Actually, I was going to start with the 10, but let's start with the hours journal. Hours journal being our joy journal as usual. So in March, which also, can you believe we're in March already? Like, that is ridiculous. I think one of the other things that is different is that I added these stickers onto here. These are just Patreon rewards that I've received. And I wanted to add this one here because it's the year of the snake. And so I wanted to commemorate that. I love this art. These are both by Wonko. And this is by Lee Shit. How do you pronounce their artist name? Hold on. Licha. Licha is the artist. I had to go deep diving and it took me like 10 minutes to find a video where they say their name. Okay, so Licha. Licha's the artist. I will leave them linked down below. These are Patreon rewards though, so just keep that in mind. And then in terms of the monthly, let's go into here. And this is beautiful, gorgeous. I love it. This is going to be the last kind of like style that I do. This is going to be the last spread in this style that I do in the monthlies because moving into April, we're going to change things up a bit. But yeah, she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. We love her. It's just, you know, media related things, fan art, inspiration, screen caps, quotes that have brought me joy in the month. Ranging from One Piece to the cover that I used for my March playlist, a quote by Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver was right. I am here. I am alive on this fresh earth. I am standing in my kitchen waiting for my tea to boil, and that alone is proof of my existence! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Put down the ChatGPT, consume too much caffeine and nicotine, and write a paper that you barely understand while you approach hallucination territory from too little sleep and too much raging. Engage with academia in the way God intended. My favorite. Am I happy? Or am I just spending money? I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I happy or am I just spending money? Also, this squirrel video. Okay, this squirrel video right here. This squirrel stage its own death, and it was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my life. I was crying from tears. I was crying from laughing so much. Also, we love Zoro in this house forever and always. And yeah, so that's the monthly. We love to see her. We love it so much. In terms of the weeklies, let's go ahead and go there. We don't like her. This is February. Yeah, this is February. And then this is, I think, yeah, these are the first. We already did this, I think, in last month's flip through. But these are the first 2 days of March, so we'll include it again. And then we go into here, which I think is one of my favorite spreads, which is funny because for me, this was one of my least favorite spreads when I was actually doing it. I think this is the one that I posted the day in my journals of, if I'm not mistaken. And if so, I will leave that link up above if you want to check that out, that little journal with me. I think it's like 30 minutes or so. This includes kind of like screen caps from my patrons when they leave beautiful words that make me want to cry. I, this week, updated my Discord welcome message. And so I wanted to commemorate that because I was very proud of myself for it. A picture of my baby girl, Frida. Some of the Patreon rewards that I received that week. Some talk about my first time going to the gynecologist. And then this is a screen cap that my best friend sent me, Natalie, when she was watching One Piece. And she said, "You and me," when it was Usopp and Nami screaming in terror and giving themselves up. And I was like, yeah, you're correct. So I really like how this spread looks. I like that it's pretty reminiscent of like the first couple of spreads that have a bit more kind of like white space, at least white space for me. But we changed this. We changed this vibe very, very quickly. And if you go into the next one, of course, we are a maximalist through and through. This week, I reached 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, which I don't think I've mentioned here, but thank you so much. I can't believe we've reached 2,000. I mean, I never thought I was going to reach 500, let alone 2,000. So thank you for every single one of you that have subscribed to the channel, watches my video, leaves comments. I honestly, even more so than the views, every single time I see a comment, a nice comment, a nice comment. Sometimes I'm terrified of going into the comments because some of y'all are doing too much with your hating. Please only leave nice things, guys. I am a human being and I have my feelings get hurt. I'm sensitive. I'm a sensitive human being. But for the most part, you guys leave beautiful messages and it makes me cry and I love it. And I'm so, 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 so grateful for every single one of you who has subscribed to the channel. So thank you very much. This week, I also got followed by Megan Rhiannon on Instagram, and I almost killed over and died. Erin Ware had me in one of her journals. I almost killed over and died again. This week was like wild for like me on the internet. Crazy. And it was also amazing because it was the first time I was able to kind of like go outside and do some like little lounging because the weather was beautiful and amazing, and it's starting to feel more like spring, you know, which is still far off in Maine. It's April. April is still technically kind of wintry here, so it's not spring just yet. Spring really hits in May, but it was starting to feel more like spring, and so I was very happy about that. Got happy mail from Mina, my beloved, and commemorated that as well. And of course, Suki, my other child, who I love very, very dearly. I really, really love this spread. This week, I struggled a bit with this spread because there was not as many pictures, and so what I ended up doing was doing this big kind of like text with my watercolors, and then I went over it with my fountain pen. Grateful for community art and happy mail, and that was kind of like what I wanted to commemorate on this spread. Specifically, this area is highlighting 2 messages from my Discord. I have like this little introduction template, and 2 of my long-term Discord members, Lauren and Laura, they added a really beautiful message in the custom message portion, and I wanted to commemorate those things because, again, almost made me sob. And then I got one of those hate comments that I was talking about earlier and was kind of talking to other people on Instagram about it, and I just received so much love and support, and I wanted to commemorate that as well from Jill and Georgia. And then Georgia left me a beautiful comment as well in one of my videos, and I wanted to put that in there as well. And so that was the community aspect of it. And then in the Happy Mail aspect of it, I received a new sketchbook that I was playing in. I received a bunch of Happy Mail and Patreon rewards, and I received new keycaps. So I wanted to commemorate that. And then art is related to the fact that I was able to do my Currently Inked. I worked on printables this week as well. And I'm always grateful for art in and of itself. So I don't think this is one of my favorite spreads, but what is, like, at least in the assembly of it, like the way that I assembled it. But at the end of the day, the important part is the memories, and that will always bring me joy. So I'm still grateful for it 100%. And then this spread definitely had a lot more images, and for that I was really, really happy because I do think it's easier for me on the more heavy image spreads. And at the end of the day, this is the journal that I want to be image heavy, right? Like this is the one that I want to put most of my pictures in when I'm picking a journal to do so. And so this week I have images of, again, my beautiful black locusts, and I wore this poncho for the first time and I was kind of obsessed with that. Aren't I cute? See? And then Natalie, my best friend, she said that I looked like I grow my own vegetables and I run a farmer's market stall, which isn't that the dream? So I put that in as well. I had a few wins this week, so I wanted to commemorate that. I did more art. I answered the 8 more pen questions and posted the video of that. There was sushi this week, which was delicious, and Maddie's letter that I sent to her arrived safely and she received it and loved it, so I put a picture of that. Some images of my printables in the wild. I still can't believe people like my printables, even though there are quite a few of you that subscribe to the Patreon and pay for these printables. I still can't believe, like, to see them being used makes me so grateful. And so, again, I wanted to commemorate that as well and put that in my journals. And then lots of pictures of the girls this week. So I put that in here. Reached 1,000 on Instagram, which I feel was, like, even more unbelievable than YouTube, because I feel like sometimes on Instagram, it feels like you're posting to the void. I don't know if that's just me, but the fact that I got 1,000 on Instagram, I was floored, really, honestly. Again, super grateful for every single one of you that follow me on there. And then this week I moved some of things around in the house, and my figures and my bookcase situation was back in the living room. I had originally taken that out and put that in the office, and I put it back in the living room, and that just made me so happy because I feel like this is where those things belong. And I have confirmed that by moving it around, so that will never move again. And as I say that, I know that that'll probably move again, but anyways, this is the 31st, so this would be the last day of March, but I haven't done this spread yet. I'm going to be doing that today after I finish recording this video, so I will show you that next month's flip through. Those are the weeks, and then in the back, I'm not sure if I started this in, I think I started this in March, so I don't think you guys would have seen it, but I decided to create a page for all of the memes that I felt represented me, right? Like whenever you see a meme and you're like, wow, that's a mood, or you ever see a meme and you're like, yep, that's me. This is me encapsulated. So I decided to do that here. I used to have I still have my Tumblr. This Tumblr tag called like Christine.txt, which is again representative of every post that I felt talked about me. And so these are a few of them. Birth is a curse and existence is a prison. On the verge of having a complete psychotic break. I need to make some kind of list or perhaps sort things into categories. One Piece doesn't have enough episodes, actually. I'm staying home today. I think I have mood poisoning. That frog, kind of like just floating. It is what it is. Having a job is cool, but every day? Yelling over club music. Do you think we're ever truly forgiven? Sorry, I haven't been silly lately. I've been at war with myself again. It's just so funny. I love it so much. It's so funny. And then here's the currently inked for March as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, and then I created the Luffy page. Duh. Most important page. I created the Luffy page. Look at him. This page is going to be, it's probably going to extend to be the whole spread. But for now, it's this page. Just images of Luffy that give me an immediate serotonin boost. So yeah, that's the Hours Journal. Loving this forever and always. As I mentioned in the Techo Kaigi video, this is the only journal that has been extremely consistent since the beginning of the year. And for that, I am just so insanely floored because that's not what I expected at all. Especially because it's a picture heavy journal. I historically struggle with pictures. So the fact that this has been the most consistent of my journals has been crazy. But yes, loving her. Wouldn't change her. I can't wait to see her all filled up at the end of the year. So yeah, let's go into the tan now. So the tan in March I have used as my daily log, and I went through a few things. As like I mentioned, I kind of wanted to try and figure out where I could do my tracking in the journals that I was already using instead of trying to get a new one. And so I tried doing some tracking on the sides here. As you can see, the March cover spread is empty. I also tried doing some tracking here, but that didn't work either. The March spread is empty, and I don't know if that will be changed. I haven't 100% decided. I haven't really given it much thought, but yeah, it was not a fun time in that aspect. However, in the daily log portion of it, like the weeklies, that was beautiful and amazing, and I loved every second of it. So let me go ahead and get us to March. So like I talked about in February, at this point towards like the mid to end of February, I started using this for daily logging, and I did use it that way every single day in March. So if we go in here, one of the things that I kind of experimented with since I was struggling with the media log was to do this section and use that as a media log. And I felt like that really worked in some senses. I liked it, and you'll see that moving on. But this journal really is just a place for me to kind of just be in it when I need to during the day, when I kind of just want to write something down. It's very stream of consciousness. It's what I call my self-care practice aspect of my journaling practice, rather. The self-care aspect of my journaling practice, even though all of it is self-care. This is like in my day-to-day, just a way for me to be in a journal and kind of get some thoughts out. And I really love this delineating line situation so much. I love the use of the whatchamacallit, the washi tape. I like how it splits up the page. I really like the colors on this spread as well. And this week I tried, instead of doing the media logging, I tried doing some habit tracking and some sleep tracking and my coffee intake, very reminiscent of how I was doing my health tracking in the Hobonichi weeks, because it is, I was having a conversation with Mina, if I'm not mistaken, and she was talking about how she really loved how I did my health tracking then, and I remembered it and was inspired by that video, and so I tried doing it here, and I did like it, but I didn't keep up with that. I think one of the really good things about this journal specifically, this is the only journal where I do not make an effort to backlog, right? Like, this is very much, if it didn't happen, it didn't happen, right? Like, this is my day. Like, this happened this day, and if it didn't happen, it didn't happen. And that's why you get these like instances where some of it is empty, right? Like, some of it is very full, and that means that day I needed to be in here, and then some days they're not, and that means that I didn't, or I was too busy, or whatever it is. It's really reminiscent of like how, like, what happened in the day and how often I was able to kind of check in with myself that day. Because I think that this is really a way for me to check in with myself, especially because if you notice, I do put timestamps every single time I get in here. So, like, for example, here I checked in at 9:22 at first. Here it was 9:28. Here was 11:45, 9:41, 9:59, 2 o'clock. And that's really normal in the weekends. I don't tend to be in here very much in the weekends, especially because this is the book that lives on my desk and I work from home. So I'm, this is usually here. And yeah, I tried doing a few different things in the kind of like this week portion. And at this point, I started doing the media logging again. And I didn't really love how this week ended up being, because on Thursday, I had to kind of like skip into the next day, and I did this delineating line that I didn't really love, but I kind of did something different in one of the following weeks that I like, which I'll get to. Again, really loving this kind of like delineating line with the washi tape. And this is what I was talking about that I tried doing in the Hobonichi weeks. So I was checking in with like my sleeping times, and then the weather is what I was doing. At this point, I was doing amount of coffee intake as well, but I stopped doing that. I was doing it up here. And then at one point I was like, well, let me try doing that in the Hobonichi weeks instead. And again, really love this spread. This I did on Sunday, but this belongs on Saturday. So really, I put like a little arrow to make sure that I remembered, yeah, this was Saturday's log. I didn't actually log anything in Sunday. This week, you can see here, I tried doing kind of like that timeline that I was talking about that I tried in the tan. I tried doing it here. So what I tried doing was kind of like splitting the daily log portion with a kind of like delineating line and doing a timeline. And I don't dislike this, but it does reduce the amount of space that I have for daily logging. And so I kind of didn't do that again, especially because I decided that I was going to move this, which I'll talk about in a second. This is one of my favorite spreads. I just really love this washi tape, and so I like that the colors also kind of match the washi tape as well. It's really, really pretty. And then this week, one of my favorite spreads as well. You can kind of see here, I was trying to do something different. I put like my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is something that I've historically tracked as well, but I don't really care about that, and if I'm being honest. At this point, I was trying to do kind of like things that happened in the day as highlights, but I didn't like that. And so what I ended up doing was adding the media log, but stamping the days. And I really like how this looked. I feel like as soon as I added this, I really liked how the rest of the spread ended up looking. I wasn't enjoying the color. I felt like it was kind of boring, but as soon as I added a couple of elements, the decorative elements and the stamps, the black stamps, I felt like it really made the spread itself pop, and I really, really enjoyed that. And then here you can see at this point, I started doing the log again and have continued to do that. I was doing some of my trackers in here because I know that historically on the weekends, I don't tend to do much daily logging. And I didn't do this again this week. Again, I really love this spread. As you can see here, I did the media log, and I forgot that I was using one of my pens for the first songs, and I emptied out that pen, so I had to use another one. But yeah, I really like that, especially because what I've been doing is that I've been stamping this here and then stamping it in my TN standard for the day, which I'll get to when I talk about pivots and miscellaneous, but that way it doesn't feel like I'm wasting ink. That's one of the things that I always feel like that's happening whenever I use a stamp and I don't have a place to like stamp it again. It feels like I'm wasting ink. So the fact that I'm able to use this stamp in 2 different places is really, really nice. And yeah, just again, the times for sleeping, and then the weather up here, and then just daily logs. And you can see here 10:41, 9:54, 9:02. But I do timestamp every single time I go into this journal, and I really enjoy that. And yeah, that's that. I will. Did I just go into April? Well, okay, sneak peek of April, I guess. My bad. I completely forgot that I was just showing you March. Well, anyways, this is the last day of March. Oh, goodness. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Well, sneak peek, I guess. That's the daily log. Oh, my goodness. Guys, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Okay, that means we're going to get into the cousin, which this goes into the outer journal. So let me put that back before we move on. I love this pencil board, by the way. It's one of my favorites. Okay, so now time for the commonplace / media journal, and definitely had a lot of fun in here in March. Excited for April too, because I'm changing things up a little bit, but we're talking about March, so let's talk about March. So some changes in here. I don't know if there's any changes in here really. I have this little postcard that I added that was a happy mail, some Patreon mail. I think this was here already. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's new or not, but that's the front cover. In terms of the monthly, so that was one big change, is the monthly. So I decided that I wanted to do my, again, because the weeks isn't working, I wanted to do, and excuse this angle, but this is like just a bit more censored in this little particular section. I wanted to do the fan art in here since I wasn't going to be using the weeks, or I haven't been using the weeks as much as I want to. I figured I would move that in here, and I really, really like it. Especially because even though I love these two types of spreads, they are more like extra, right? Like it's not the end of the world if I don't have them. They're much more decorative and just a fun way to use ink. I do think that I want to find a way to kind of implement this into my system, but I might find another way to do that via rings. But I do like the idea of having my fan art in here, kind of just some of it, the best of it from the month, kind of like here. I love how it feels too. So nice. And then I am trying to figure out what to do in this little section here. I'm thinking maybe some trackers of some sort. I'm not 100% certain. If you watched my monthly setup for April, you'll know that I didn't do anything here. I'm going to wait a bit longer to kind of decorate it now that I know that I want to do the fan arts. So yeah, that's what the monthly ended up looking like. And then let's go into the weeklies. So like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I was doing in here in February that kind of went into March a little bit was this type of spread where I was doing kind of like the timeline of the day related to just media. Because of course, since I wanted this to be kind of like a space for my commonplacing / media journaling, it felt pertinent that the actual timeline itself was related to the media that I was consuming. But one of the things I found, because I am the way that I am, and I love to decorate, and I have a lot of I collect a lot of fan art, and I collect a lot of memes, I felt that this was, I guess, too empty. Like I could do more with the space, but because the spacing sometimes was a little difficult to work with, I wanted to kind of change things up. This week I tried doing something a little bit different. I do really love how this spread came out, but I tried doing a little bit different. Like I tried adding some musings that day. I was trying to do something else. I did end up doing fan art, and I really like how that looks, but I ended up switching it this week. And I tried doing, first of all, I was going to try just doing like anytime I had a journal thought, kind of similar to what I do in my daily log. Whenever I have a journal thought, I would come in and do it, which is why there's like these little sections here and this blurb. But what I ended up doing instead was I've been tracking for the past couple of weeks my first song, right? Like the first song of the day and the time in which I consumed that. And what I thought of doing this week was adding a lyric from the song to represent the first song of the week, and I really liked how that looked. And I didn't end up listening to songs these 2 days, which is why it's empty. And taking it a step further, what I realized, because these are just random lyrics that I liked from the song. What I tried to do and wanted to do this week, which of course, as you can see, I didn't end up finishing, was actually picking lyrics to make a poem based off of the first songs. So I felt like that was going to be a pretty cool idea to kind of commemorate the first song that I was listening to, and also kind of like intertwine it with my love for poetry and kind of like making it a found poetry based off of the first songs. I still have to go back and actually do that. I haven't done it. And then as you can see, I didn't do anything for this week, so I will probably do the first songs in here as well. I have since switched up what I'm doing in these weeks, because I'm thinking, spoiler alert, I'm thinking about potentially changing this journal to be a all-around archive of my life. But that is still in the works. I am still kind of like working through it. I have talked to my patrons about it, but I'm waiting for some things to arrive before I come up with anything certain. But yeah, I do have to kind of like backlog and add the first songs to these two spreads. And I do really love how this spread came out though. I think all of the weeks in this month are successful in their own way. Even if they are very different, I do like seeing them. I don't have any qualms about changing what I'm doing in the weeks or changing what I'm doing in my journals, because for me, it's all just representative of me and the things that are important to me at that point in time. So yeah, I am doing my timeline in here, by the way, just as a little sneak peek of April. I've decided to do my timelines in here, which is kind of like what I was talking about earlier with the TN, where that kind of inspired a certain style and certain way of doing things in here. So there's that. In terms of the daily pages, I have done some minor things in January. I still have to backlog most of January, but I did add this quote that I have to finish up later. Pursue pretty at your own pace is a quote that I heard somewhere in a video that my mom was playing at her house when I was still at her apartment for my recovery. And I put a post-it to remember it, but I don't know where it's from. I know it's one of the videos that she was watching. And so I just added, in whatever facet you choose to chase it. I know that this was related to home decor because that's one of my mom's special interests. But for me, it was important and just hit home that this should be something, like if you are pursuing pretty, do it at your own pace, you know? If I'm pursuing pretty in my journals, do it at your own pace. You'll get there eventually, right? And what is pretty anyways? So there's that. I added some stickers for where I want to talk about certain media when I finished it. I added the title to the Dietlov Past page that I still have to get to. I finally transcribed the Squid Games stuff from the TAN. I still have to transcribe quite a few things, but I did the Squid Games one. And then I also, let's see, I don't think I did anything else in the January pages. I printed out pretty much most of my pages for February, I think. I added these images for the Kabuki page. Let's see, what else? I still have to go in and write about your monster. I added more images of triptychs based off of other things that I was researching and found. I found some more triptych images, so I just add that in here. I might just end up, because here I want to write about an essay that I read by Laurel Schwartz, but I might just end up leaving it for more triptychs. As I find them, I'll add them in. What I really want to do, and what I should do, is stamp the days that I find them. I think that would be really cool, especially now because I have this cute new mini dater, which I'm really loving. I added the quote here. I was going to typewrite it, but I just ended up adding it with my brush pen. Sacred is an anagram of scared from Lakewood. Let's see. These are some of the spreads that you've already seen. Still have to go in and do this. Added this image of Lake of the Dead. So that's what and then these two images. So that's what I caught up on in the previous months. In the month of March, this is what the cover page ended up looking like for now. I might do something here later. I might not. We shall see. For March, not all of the pages are done, but they all have like a specific topic that I want to get to and eventually will. So here I want to talk about episode 4 of the Makanai. Here I want to write about Katsushika Oe, which is an artist, famous Japanese artist. Here's the word bank and the quotes bank. For word bank, I have, I think I've talked about this maybe, but I'm not 100% sure. I have Minge, Mean or Mine, Catalepsy, Sundry, Dower, Viscera, all from different books that I was reading throughout the month. And then this is an image from Instagram that talks about a word in Farsi that means it translates to your place is empty and is used to tell each other when they miss someone. So I put that in there because I really like that. A few other quotes. Love is an echo. Love is a quiet echo, always reshaping the spaces we cannot name. That's a quote from a newsletter from Cody Cook Parrott. This here is a quote that says, you don't have to feel okay to be deserving of kindness. I'll go ahead and zoom you in so you can see them a little better. How humiliating it is to be made of flesh. How wonderful it is to be anything at all. We make plans for the future, even on days where I don't believe in it. Even when I feel like I'll never make it that far. And maybe that's what love is. And then this one, I can barely see that, so I'm going to have to... Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but it says, I'll look at the world through your eyes too. I'll enjoy the smallest things that life can offer, so the part of you that still lives inside of me will enjoy it too. And yeah, those are just some quotes that I collected from the different things that I was consuming. So that's the word and the quote bank. There we go. And then I have to write about Masks by Fumiko Enshi, which I did print out the 3 masks that are used in that book and the book cover. So this space is ready for that. This is one of the books that I lost all my annotations for when I did my reset of the Kobo. Accidentally had to reset it because I flew too close to the sun, guys, in truth. So I have to reread this book to be able to get the quotes that I wanted. I did my text title for Mayhem. This is going to house my review of the album by Lady Gaga. Printed some images of Joanne Kiger that I have to get through. This is one of the pages that I still need to do. This is going to have quotes from the first chapter of The Beauty of Everyday Things. This is Monday. Monday is the newsletter by Cody Cook Parrott that I've already referenced in one of the quotes in my quote banks. So this one is, everything feels like questions right now. No answers, just asking. And I wrote a little bit about that quote. This is a Instagram post. It said, rediscovering my childlike wonder about the world is going to be huge this summer. So I just put that in here because I had the space for it. I will probably write a little bit about that at some point. Here's just an overflow page with some fan art. And I was listening quite a lot to Your Love by Jisoo this week. So I put that in here. Just some other quotes from Instagram and some writing about that. I really like how this page looks. It's so colorful. A collections page for book recommendations. This is a page where I kind of just like had this little today section, and I had a few more quotes that I printed out that I needed space for, so I added them in here because they fit. Have I lived enough? Have I loved enough? Have I experienced happiness with sufficient gratitude? Have I endured loneliness with grace? By Mary Oliver. Not every day will feel special, and that's okay. Each day is still worth something. And then this is a quote that Maddie had sent in my Discord, but then I found it like this illustration, and so I added it here to commemorate both her sharing the quote and also the illustration because I like it. Art is how we decorate space, music is how we decorate time. And this one says, spring is on its way with my happiness in its pocket. In a scared and unsure world, the only medicine my soul craves is the sweetened sun, the courage to begin again. I'm so ready for spring, guys. And then this was set by somebody on my Discord, let the hard animal of your body hate what it hates, which is a riff off of Mary Oliver's poem that I really, really love, Wild Geese. So I thought that was hilarious. And then this is a quote by William Stafford that, if I'm not mistaken, I saw in a video by Aaron Ware. Words on the page make space for the silence between them. We are listening for the silence. So good quotes. And then here is a page on the Makanai when I finished the show. These are some behind the scene images that I really, really loved. My queen, my beloved. This is notes from a course that I took by Cody Cook that I have censored a little bit here because it just doesn't feel right to share that information. Here's another page that has quotes by Cody Cook and their newsletter. It is all trial and error, and the final act is love. You can start over at any time, even if you have built a whole world. If everything is an experiment, there are no mistakes, there are no flops, there are no failures, which definitely is my way of seeing things. I am behind. I do my best not to second arrow myself, to accept that sometimes being behind is part of it all. The pendulum swings. I try to keep each spot on the stove at medium temperature, but one seems to boil over, while the others can't catch the heat. I am lost in my favorite way. No direction feels clear, so I roll the dice, and every side says what you want it to say. Every wish coming true if you just wait. The snow melts, and then it returns. You can start over at any time, even if you have built a whole world. So I love, 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 love these quotes. This is another page that I have set up for quotes from a book that I'm reading called The Practice of Not Thinking. This is a page that I have available for some information on the word syllabus and some resources that I found that I want to kind of like go deep dive into and I want to commemorate. The 20th was the spring equinox, so I have a little printable by Susanna Bryant here, and it was also Sabo and Itadori's birthday, so I have some fan art of Sabo here. I have to print out some fan art of Itadori from JJK. This quote is here, and I kind of want to write around it. So, do you fall in love often? Yes, often. With a view, with a book, with a dog, a cat, with numbers, with friends, with complete strangers, with nothing at all. And so I want to write a bit about that. Here is a screenshot of the cover of a YouTube video that I watched. And in that video, they talked about the Persian New Year and the Iranian calendars. And so I kind of want to write a bit about that as well and how that felt really that really resonated with me. The idea of spring as the spring equinox being the start of the year itself rather than having the start of the year being January based on Gregorian calendars. So that's something that I want to write about on this page. This is another page for day 2 of the course that I was taking by Cody Cook, The Tapestry and the Web. So there's that. And then this is a very famous quote by Joan Didion, related to, how she's not a good writer or a bad writer. She's just a writer. Here is a collection page that I made to highlight all of the first songs of the month and kind of see if there was repeats. There was definitely repeats. Like, for example, The Giver was the first song a few times. Into the Island by IU was a song that I was repeating. It was that was like one of my top songs in 2021, I believe, and I was listening to them again a few times this month. And I think Picture You by Chappell Roan also was one of those that repeated a few times. So that's a really interesting way to see the same information in a different layout, because again, I'm a data nerd through and through. And then this last spread, I can't really show you because I didn't have a way to censor it, but it is also related to the last day of the Tapestry and the Web. And then maybe I can so you can kind of see there. Because I really like how the deco of this spread came out quite a lot. So, yeah. And then this is the last page. I just have some fan art from Deku and Katsuki that I found that I pasted on here. I didn't have anywhere else to paste it, so I did that there. And then on the top section, I wanted to put some quotes from a Clarissa Spector book that I'm reading as well. So that is my April, my March spreads. I really enjoyed the way that I did these spreads this month. I love how they look. I feel like I am kind of like finding my style, I guess. I don't know. I feel like sometimes I don't know if I have a specific style, and then people say, oh no, this specific kind of like thing looks like you, and I'm like, oh my god, what do you mean? How do you know? Because I think that I am unknowable, and then I realize I'm not. But I definitely think that I am finding my groove in this journal, which is so much fun. That being said, I have decided to change things up a little bit, and I'm going to try, again, kind of like a little bit of a peek into the following month. I'm going to try daily logging in here instead, doing a combination of daily logging and commonplacing as well, with having an overflow commonplace situation. That's also something that's still in the works, but yeah, that's the plan. But definitely loved being in here in March and excited to continue being in this notebook. I feel very, very creative, which is very interesting because I historically don't feel as creative in white paper, but definitely have been loving it. Excited to be more in it, because this is a notebook that I wasn't really particularly in every single day, but I'm excited to try and be a little bit in it a little bit more often. So that's that. So those are my successes. And then just briefly, I wanted to talk about 2 journals that had some pivots and just miscellaneous things that I've been using as companions. I have been working on my personal website and kind of figuring out where the Ellen Nim website goes and where my personal website goes and where my wider view, like where it ends, where it begins. And I've been kind of doing some of that brainstorming in this Midori B6 notebook. I have been really enjoying writing it like horizontally instead of vertically, which has been interesting as well. So that's been fun, and that's been in the works. And so I haven't really used this since I first set it up as a language journal. And so I figured this would be a good place to kind of use it. It's small enough to do so. So I've been enjoying that. And then I've been using this TN as a place for kind of gratitude journaling. Every morning I do my list. And I have talked about how this is a type of gratitude journaling that is not just positive gratitude journaling. It's more of like another aspect of like how do I explain this? There's this book called, well, I can't even remember the name of the book. I read it last year. And basically it is a list that you make in the beginning of the day where you list out things that you are grateful for, even if you don't necessarily feel grateful for those things, as a way of acknowledging that that is part of your life right now. And if you want to change it, that you have to acknowledge it to be able to move past it, right? And so you are demonstrating gratefulness for even the bad things, even if you don't feel grateful for them. It's kind of just a list, essentially, of things that you are noticing about your life. And that's why I think it's like an act of presence more than just a gratitude list. But anyways, all to say that I'm using this journal to do that. With the change that I'm making in the Hobonichi cousin, where I'm going to be doing my daily logging in here, that would mean that I'm no longer going to be using this as my daily log. And so what I'm thinking of is that because I've been pretty consistent in here so far with the list, I could potentially convert this to be the pace for the list, since I'm not going to be using it for daily logging. And so we shall see. That's something that I'm thinking about for February. Oh my goodness. For April. But in March, this was very successful as my place for the list. And so I wanted to mention that before we finished this little section of the video. So that is all. I've definitely been talking for a long time. Like the video itself is an hour, almost 52 minutes. I hope that you enjoyed this little flip through of how I use my journals in March. And yeah, if you guys made it up until this portion of the video, why don't you guys leave a, let's see, leave any green emoji. How about we do that? Like any green emoji, if you've made it to this part of the video, leave a green emoji so that we know that you're part of the end of the video crew. And yeah, thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye guys.